The video game industry has changed, which is expected because things change as times pass, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be for the better. I remember the jump from the PS2 era of games to the PS3 era where they start having these things called DLCs, and that was weird because you're getting more content, which is nice, but sometimes there would be this thing called Day 1 DLC, which is really odd because you get extra content during Day 1. What does that mean? Back then during the PS2 era, when you buy a game, that's pretty much it. If the game is buggy or if it has problems, then the game has problems, and the developers of the game would actually spend the time and effort to make sure that the game is released in a somewhat playable state before shipping it out to the consumer. I mean, I can go as far as the 8-bit consoles when developers have one shot to make the game. Then once it's released, if it's good, then it's good. If it's not, then people will forever mention that game as the game with a lot of bugs. Nowadays, I mainly play on the PC, so I'm no strangers to games having patches to fix known issues, but I feel like with consoles, it should not be the same. I feel like with consoles, they really need to give us more reasons to play the consoles besides the console exclusives. With the newer generations of the console, the PS4 era, I feel like they're just PCs in a way, because when I go buy a game, there's always some kind of patch I have to install before playing the game. So I really want to go back to the simpler days with the consoles when I buy the game, it would work right out of the box, or in this particular case, right after a digital download. I play the game on a budget, and if I choose between a console or a new PC, I would actually just go for the PC because it can do so much more, which I kind of don't want because I want consoles to be competitive when comparing them to PC. Remember folks, the more competition, the better it is for us, the consumers. So going back to Day 1 DLC, this is terrible because obviously it means that they have already created the content from the get-go, and they're just gonna nickel and dime us for more content right from the start. Personally, I don't buy games at launch day because $60 for a video game is just too much money for me to spend. But if I were to spend $60 on the video game, then I would want that game to be complete and ready to go right out of the box. Then there are different versions of the games during pre-release, as in if you go buy the game at a certain location, you get a certain item in the game that you would only find at that location, and then you get a different item if you were to buy the game from a different location. In a sense, you never really get the complete game, which is sad because you certainly spend the money for a complete game, so why do you have to hunt and peck for the right one? Then there are microtransactions in $60 games. As if these DLC content wasn't bad enough, they come up with microtransactions to get you to buy certain items to quote-unquote enhance the gameplay experience. These are notoriously bad if they are in multiplayer game because they could be pay-to-win situations, which ruins the games for the ones that don't want to pay. Now I can understand pay to win for games that are free to begin with because the developers need to make money somehow, but those games are broken as hell as well. But if you're charging full price for the game, don't freaking make it pay to win. Also, if the game that is multiplayer only and is charging me full price, then I expect it to have offline bots, because this is the way to extend the life of the game beyond if the servers get shut down. Servers don't last forever, and if someone buys a game that only have multiplayer and the server shut down, then they're buying paperweight. So at least have the freaking courtesy to put bots, because at least they can somewhat enjoy the game if they buy them. Back then, when we used to have expansion set, these were way better because these expansion set were basically a whole other game that takes place in the same universe as the game, or it's an extension to the current game for a fraction of the price. I believe back then people were somewhat mad about expansion sets as well, but looking back now, it's a lot nicer due to the amount of content we're getting for the money. I like patches for free content because this means that the developer cares for the consumer base and they're giving people more bang for their buck. but now it really seems like video games are so leaning towards making money that they're leaving their consumer clean out when it comes to content. Then we have this thing called Season Pass, which is you basically paying double for the same game with the promise of the developers making more content for the game. I don't know if you guys remember it, but back then, new multiplayer maps were free because the developers were showing their consumers that they care for them. And now you're expected to pay for this Season Pass to get multiplayer maps when it should have been free to begin with. I don't think it's fair that we, as the consumer, are getting screwed when it comes to us wanting to buy video games. But here's the sad truth, people. The sad truth is that at the end of the day, we can only blame ourselves because we are the ones that are buying the DLCs and microtransactions. We are the ones that are telling the developers, hey, you know what? It's okay to do this and that they deserve our money. So this is why at the end of the day, all I can do is wait for games to hit rock bottom in their depreciation curve and then buy them, or wait for some kind of Game of the Year edition when they give me all of the DLC content bundled into one package for less than the price of the full game. I don't mind doing this. In fact, I've been doing this because I work a full-time job and having to juggle my other online businesses. So the chance of a game that I like comes out, by the time when I actually get to buy the game, it would already have hit the depreciation curve, so it's all good. So do you guys agree with me? Let me know in the comments down below. If you made it this far and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell to become part of the mighty notification squad. As always, have an awesome day.